Today we are going to be discussing some of the more common plot holes discussed in the Naruto series. Up first, we have an interesting one that I haven't actually thought about until recently, but it is that Danzo did not attack the leaf after Hiruzen was killed by Orochimaru, and it really doesn't make any sense as to why. Even though Danzo had been plotting for a long time, we don't really get to see until Shippuden how conniving he really is. It makes sense that Danzo would try to usurp the power after the pain attack and Tsunade goes into a coma. However, what doesn't make sense is why he didn't try and take advantage of the situation when Orochimaru killed Hiruzen. After Hiruzen's death, it took them a while to find Tsunade as a replacement, and with her and Jiraiya out of the village, Naruto and Sasuke being too young to know what's happening and too weak to stop it even if they did, along with his control of the Roots, who were blindly loyal to him, he probably would have had no problem taking control and had a much easier time keeping it. This scenario also means that he isn't thrust into power during the beginning of a war, and he could have avoided getting caught with Kotomatsu Kame and used it for something that made a little bit more sense. Next, we're going to talk about how Itachi didn't kill Danzo when he had every reason to and every chance. Knowing Itachi, let's assume the Uchiha massacre happens anyway. Itachi still kills his clan to avoid a war, protect his brother, and defend his village. However, for somebody as smart as he is, Itachi's choice to leave Danzo alive simply perplexes me. Itachi knew exactly the type of person Danzo was. In fact, he was one of the only few people who actually did. Between knowing he killed Shisui for his eye and boxing him into a corner leading to Itachi killing his friends and family, Itachi knew better than anybody how big of a threat Danzo was to the Leaf and potentially Sasuke. It just doesn't make sense how if he's going to be a rogue ninja anyway, and he's obviously more than strong enough to have beaten him considering Sasuke did, Itachi should have just killed him when he had the chance. Next is one of the more talked about ones in the series, and that's that nobody in the village knew who Naruto was. The explanation we got was that they kept his identity a secret to avoid any issues from Minato's enemies or any other villages who were trying to, for some reason, take Naruto. And that doesn't make sense for a few reasons. One being that it is said that he had Kushina's face and Minato's hair, so right off the bat that establishes he looked just like both of them. So anybody who had met them, which is everybody before they died, should have recognized him, not to mention the unique speech pattern he got from Kushina where he ends every sentence with "you know." Next being the fact that apparently nobody put together the fact that Kushina had been pregnant, then her and Minato die on the same day, the day that she was giving birth, and a kid who looks just like both of them was retrieved from the battlefield, and that it might not be their kid. Like, it just doesn't make sense that nobody put this stuff together. Even if you take into consideration that for a while she was kept in a specific spot in the village away from people due to the fact that she was a Jinchuriki, it still doesn't make sense because there were multiple ninja there at the moment that Hiruzen retrieved Naruto, and multiple moments where other people in the village had met Kushina and obviously Minato as Hokage, so there's no real excuse for them not recognizing or knowing what was going on. And lastly, it is hard for me to believe that while Danzo was pettily leaking the info that Naruto was the new Jinchuriki to try to build a shared hatred for the Nine Tails in the village, which would lead to Naruto experiencing years of ridicule and isolation, that the thought of outing him as the son of the fourth Hokage was too far, especially considering he was bitter that Minato was chosen over Orochimaru for fourth Hokage. It would have been another good opportunity to try and turn people against Hiruzen as the one who pushed for Minato as Hokage, only for the Nine Tails to attack and him to die within 2 years of him taking the position. The next plot hole has to do with the Sharingan, and that is that Obito seemed to be able to use it as much as he wants with absolutely zero repercussions. We know that overuse of the Mangekyou Sharingan will eventually result in blindness in that eye, because not only was it stated multiple times, but we see Kakashi, Itachi, Sasuke, and Madara. Meanwhile, Obito seems to just use his to get around, and nothing seems to happen. We know he isn't switching his eye out, otherwise he wouldn't always have Kamui, and he had no siblings we know of, so there's no reason to assume he has EMS, especially considering he only has one of his original eyes, the other being in Kakashi. So we couldn't have gotten EMS anyway. Him only having one eye is the precise reason he's never able to use Susanoo. The only other reason is because nearly half of his body is almost entirely reconstructed with Hashirama cells. And so because he has these Hashirama cells in him, they meld with his chakra and has been in him for so long that they basically would turn him into having an EMS. Similar to if, say, Sarada unlocked 100 healings, she wouldn't necessarily have to get Eternal Mangekyou because she would be able to constantly heal herself herself with her 100 healings chakra. And lastly, in this video, we're going to talk about how infinite tsukuyomi was inherently flawed from the very beginning. So obviously it puts people under an infinite dream state. However, knowing how the divine tree works, we know that the lasting result of being in it for too long is death, or at least potentially having your chakra recycled into a white zetsu. Of course, this is odd considering the goal of Obito and Madara was to put everybody in this trance as a means to stop wars and protect the future. It would seem that they made a slight miscalculation. Now, it is true that Madara was misled by Black Zetsu, who hid the truth, and Madara misled Obito in the same way, so I suppose it isn't really their fault. However, even if you look at what Madara and Obito did know, and the plan that they did have, it still doesn't really make sense as far as achieving their goal to protect humanity. From a selfish viewpoint, they could have been with their loved ones again, but their shared goal for peace directly contradicts this, because they could have just died, because at least in the Naruto universe, the afterlife is a clearly existing and established concept. But to force everybody else into it just really doesn't make a lot of sense considering what their overall goals were. That'll be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed these plot holes. If you can think of any others that I didn't talk about, please leave them in the comments below and I would be happy to make a video discussing them more. If you enjoyed this video, please do not hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications when I post. With that, I will see you next time.